Hello, everybody. My name is Ruben Aguilar. Today continues Hemingway Week, and we are discussing the stories, some of them anyway, of Ernest, of Ernest Hemingway. Welcome, Jacob.
Hey, Rube.
Ernest Hemingway was a great writer, hunter, fisherman, and people talk about his novels. We are talking about a couple of them this week, but what about his short stories? To me, this is where Hemingway really brought out his best. Hemingway started out as a reporter, and he really has a great essay, and he has talked about it in interviews about what reporting did for his writing in terms of novels, in terms of stories. It made his stories kind of leaner and meaner. He didn't believe in the adjective and the adverb. He was about bringing the noun and the verb. Say what you mean what you say, get out. He's really good, by the way, for any high school seniors or juniors who are a bit verbose. If you want to show them a thing or two about kind of reeling it in, read a little bit of Hemingway. And his short stories are great. Let's start with, of course, The Killers. Jacob, The Killers. What do you think about such a great story?
It's great. So I can't remember, they've made this into a movie, Rube. As I know you know that, but I think there's a couple of versions of it. I may be wrong, but I love the short stories of Hemingway, and this is one of my favorites. I'm gonna tell you why, real quick, why is my favorite. It's because I have to read it a couple of times to figure out what's going on here, and then start saying, "Oh, geez, this Nick Adams is really the protagonist. He's the one who." I think Hemingway has this character in a few of his short stories, right? And he is seeing something. Like, think about you if you were in a diner seeing some violence, right? Or possible violent act. And he's in the middle of this and he's not sure what to do. And so we see him in this diner. This short story starts up in the diner where these two hoodlums come in. It's Chicago, 1927. This is the era of, Prohibition, right? What's that gangster, the famous one from Chicago, Al Capone, right? So it's that era, even though he never says Al Capone and so forth, but it's there. And these guys come in to kill a prize fighter. And so this Nick Adams and the cook and the owner or the gentleman working the counter, they're having to deal with these two people who want to kill this prize fighter. Who knows if they're going to kill them?
What makes the story work? What is good about the story?
I think what's good about the story is that you're in right away, and you really care about what's going to happen to these characters. Where a lot of times you don't know right away. You see characters, you're not really sure, but you want to know what's going to happen, and you're in on all the way, and you're surprised at the ending. Like I wasn't sure where I was going to go, and I'm like, wow, this took me to a place I didn't think I was going to go. So for me, Ruben, I think it's because I didn't know where it was going to go, and it was so Hemingway. The lines were just bam, bam, bam. He doesn't waste a word. And like I think you shared that his background is he wrote for newspapers and so forth. But what do you think, Ruben? I mean, do you feel the same way? That's what got you?
If you are reading a story about character, talk about lean, talk about characters that don't have 1,000 lines each.
No.
So if somebody were to ask me, how would I teach how to build character? How do I teach to my students characters that matter, but don't have 1,000 things to say? This is it. Because each character has only a few lines, maybe.
Oh yeah.
If you count all the lines, Ole Anderson doesn't have very many things to say. He's the one that is being targeted.
This prize fighter, yeah.
For a contract killing, perhaps. Then you have these two thugs who are in the dining room, who are very brutal, very cruel. Now,
Mm.
A very inexperienced writer would demonstrate cruelty by bringing out the gun
Yeah.
and trying to torture and beating somebody over the head. But no, Hemingway was a great writer, and what he did was he had these two characters, these two thugs, humiliate right?
Yeah.
There was a humiliation of Sam, the Negro cook,
Yeah.
George, the server, and it was a series of humiliations. And that's what made them cruel. You know these two guys.
Yeah.
George trying to be the pleaser, right? The server, bringing in the food, falling, making sure the rules are there, explaining the menu. We only serve breakfast and lunch. Give me the chicken croquettes with cream sauce, one of the thugs says. That's the dinner. We're only serving breakfast and lunch. Most people would say, give the guys the dinner. But we're not serving dinner right now.
Right.
And then you have the Sam, who I got to say this because on the face of it, first time I ever read The Killers, I thought, this is entertaining. This could be Dashiell Hammett. This could be Raymond Chandler. And they all wrote roughly at the same time, but Hemingway could have done that. Hemingway, from seeing this, could have been a potboiler detective novelist, but that was one tool in his tool bag. But don't you like this line in this story where he says, Sam the cook says, he tells Nick Adams, you better not have anything to do with this at all. You better stay out of it. Which, isn't this universal? Stay out of something that doesn't belong to you. Yeah, but Ole's going to get killed.
Right.
Don't have anything to do with this. Yet, as in the great detective novels of that era, there's a lot of moral characters.
Yeah.
And this character goes and tries to warn Ole Anderson. Someone's coming to get you. And that's a risk they're taking.
Oh, yeah.
That's a risk he's taking.
And to the point where he takes that risk, Ruben, but he knows the risk. And once he does warn him, he says, I think I'm out of here because this is too overwhelming, I think, for him. Like this is a part of life he's not used to. I'm not sure about you, Ruben. There have been times in my life where I've seen something. I go, wow, that I never had that in my worldview before. That's something that kind of changed it. And I think that's what happened here with Nick. And I think that's what Hemingway was trying to show, that this is something that never was part of his worldview. And it came and it hit him. And he just didn't know what to do with it. He went and he was moral. He went and warned the prize fighter, hey, they're out to kill you. These two guys these hitmen are going to come and kill you. But once he did that, he was out of there because it's just too much I think it was too much for him.
Well, he does it though. He was out of there. Most people would be out of there because they're not going to stick around.
But George stayed, and so did the cook.
He still warns them.
Oh no, I know. It's so admirable. Oh yeah, it's admirable.
The other thing is that Ole's response is clipped. It's very short.
Yeah.
He doesn't turn around. You learn Ole even from a few lines. He basically has given up. He goes, I can't even bring myself to get out of here, to take a walk from this kind of boarding house he's staying at. I can't even walk out. He can't even, he doesn't even have what a brilliant piece of writing. He doesn't even have the strength to roll over on his bed to face.
And this is a prize fighter. This is a guy who's fought, who's probably been in the ring and not, he has been in the ring, but been hit and hard. And he's not even willing to do that because he's like, I've given up,
Now you had said, yes, absolutely. And that only adds to the drama and the character there. Now you had said that the ending you didn't expect. To me, the ending wasn't explosive, but it was strong because Nick, I think it was Nick that mentions, I can't think about what's going to happen. I can't even imagine. And I believe it was Sam that says, then don't think about it. And again, you see this idea of let's pretend it doesn't exist by not thinking about it. No. We can't do that.
Yeah.
It's happening. And
this is real. Yeah.
Isn't it powerful that I had a feeling when I read this, I had a little bit of East of Eden in me in the sense that we look at the 40s and the 30s as kind of an innocent time in a way compared to these days.
Sure.
But there was some real violence and darkness.
Yeah.
We
Yeah. I
forget
think,
that.
and I, as I'm reading it too, Ruben, because I'm always trying to think, how would I bring this into my class? I know for literature and for English teachers is great, but hey, when I hit Prohibition and the 20s and early 30s, this is a great piece to bring because it gives you the feel, the sense of the times, but it also tells you, wait a minute, that happens today too, and this ugliness is, we could see it today and maybe even compare it to something to today. But man, what great writing. You're right. I mean, it was, he just doesn't waste words either. I mean, like you said, Ruben, there's not a lot of dialogue for any of these characters, but you know about them, you learn, and you have to read it a couple times just to enjoy it more. I just think it's like, oh, what did I miss here? And anyway, a lot of fun.
Okay.
Reading.
The Killers. And now we will turn to Hills Like White Elephants. Hills Like White Elephants is a story of really just a couple having a conversation at a train station, perhaps a bar outside a train station, and that's it. First time I read it, I said to myself, "What's going on here? I'm not sure if I get it." Or wait a minute, is this what I think it is? Then I reread it. I think I do get it, but this can't be right. I looked at the date of when it was written, and this is two people deciding to make a very impactful decision about a woman's pregnancy. What are they going to do about it? Now, this was not written 10 years ago, 20 years ago. This was written back in the day. Actually, I don't even know what year this was written.
I think it was 1927. I think it's the same year as The Killers. Yeah.
So there you go. How interesting that Hemingway's character, I don't believe he's given a name, says it's just a simple operation. Jig. Yeah. It's simple. 1927, simple? Nothing simple about it. There's so much irony in this. It's a dialogue, mostly dialogue. Bam, 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 bam. Very short story. And does it lay a punch on you? It brings it hard because there is some dishonesty going on and there's a lot of subtext there. Really good story, really short story, but some of the best ones are that short. What are your thoughts?
No, I think I like the keyword that you shared with is dishonest. I felt like, Hemingway is many times people view him as this anti-feminist, but a lot of his early works, even this piece, I felt like the female characters, you feel for them, and I think he feels for them, and he writes them well. One of my favorite scenes is in the beginning where she's looking up at the hills, right, and she says, "Oh, they look like white elephants," and he says, "Oh, I've never seen one," and she says, "No, you wouldn't have," and which is alluding to like you don't know what I'm going through. You don't know. There's things that you don't know, and like, wow, that was like, what the heck? And he doesn't. And there's a time where later on she tells him, "Can you just please stop? Can you just quiet?" Like I don't want to hear it anymore. He's pressuring her. Everyone's doing it. People's done it. It's gonna be okay. I still love you. And she's just like, enough. Just let me. She just wants to just like settle down and just figure it out. And
but she says, "Can you please be quiet?"
Be quiet. That's all right. Be quiet.
He wants them to be quiet.
Mm-hmm. And he's just like, okay. And then, and I think that people back, I was reading an article about this short story that people before, I think 1980 would say, oh yeah, she went ahead and had the abortion. But after 1980, people reread it and looked at it again and said, well, I don't know. And Hemingway left it that way, right? Like, hey, you decide. And I think there's arguments for both, and it's funny, when you first shared, like when I first read this, I wasn't sure what it was. They've asked some graduate students recently to read it. And the first time they read it too, they're like, I don't know what's going on here. You have to read it a couple of times and then you go, oh, okay, I get it. And, but yeah, like I shared, there are a lot of people not sure what she did. Cause I think there's a feeling that, hey, wait a minute, she's calm at the end. She's made her decision, and is it to go along with him? I don't know. I mean, I don't, I can't. I'm not convinced that she's going to go along with him. There's an inner strength in her, and I liked it.
I liked it too, and I especially like this line. What did you say? She said, and he says, "I said we could have everything. We can have everything. No, we can't." And he says, "We can have the whole world. No, we can't. We can go everywhere." He says, "No, we can't. It isn't ours anymore." And I like that it reflects on this idea of lost innocence in some way. I mean, I don't think it's just because of the choice. I think it's because of his lies. And what I mean by that is that he keeps saying it's perfectly simple. And if it was perfectly simple, then they wouldn't be having this conversation.
Right.
It's not that perfectly simple. And the other thing he says is, "I don't want you to do it if you feel that way." He says something like that several times. And this is a lie, because if he really felt that way, he would have dropped it, because she doesn't want to do it. It's very clear. She doesn't want to go through with it. And I won't do it. Then we won't do it if you feel that way. And it's a very dishonest person, and she feels trapped. Like a lot of people feel in relationships they can't get out of. Feels like white elephants. The white elephant is something you don't want. And you could look at it as the baby that they don't want, but also perhaps it's the relationship that she doesn't want. It's that feeling of maybe you settled and that you can't go back anymore. It's not ours anymore to go back to. It's really tragic. Yeah. And I do like her too. And you could just sort of see the subtext of who she is, yeah, and how ironic she is at times.
I feel like whatever happens, I don't feel like because she's a strong character, I think she's a strong person, I think they don't stay together. I mean, that's also a debate out there, because they're from two different worlds, and there's more of a maturity about her than where he's at in his life. There's a lot more it appears that he's a lot more obviously selfish, and she's not. She's definitely wanting to take it in and figure this out. But wonderful piece, Ruben.
Okay, so that brings us to the final story that we're going to talk about. I really could have recommended a couple of other ones. I mean, his stories are great. Check them out.
Can I share something before we do the last one? I really thought we were doing the snows of Kilimanjaro for the last one. And so I read that one first, and then I realized, oh no, I read the wrong one. And because I had read it before, and that's another one we could have done too. Like you said, there's just so many good ones. But
so we are talking about The Short, Happy Life of Francis Macomber. Did I get the title right?
I think it's The Short, Happy Life of Francis Macomber. Yeah.
Okay. So this is a story about a man who goes on a hunt a man and his wife. They go on a hunt for lions. And on the trip, the dynamic between these two characters is very important, but also the character of Wilson, who's the man who's sort of guiding them and really guiding Francis Macomber as he looks to go on the hunt and to find a lion and to bring him down. But it's a short, happy life. It's not very long, because Francis is a coward, and he has to pay the price of that cowardice through a bad marriage, a marriage in which, talk about being trapped, another trapped perhaps relationship, a man, Francis Macomber, who has wealth, and a woman that he's married to who has beauty. She's not going to leave him, even though she doesn't respect him, because he's a man of wealth, a man of means. But this is a person who perhaps finds his true self out on the hunt. And it's very tragic if you consider it's a short realization before the big moment. Maybe I won't give away the big moment, but you just look at the title, right? It's a short realization where he thinks, wait a minute, I think I found myself here, and nothing is better and nothing is greater than when he is on this hunt. It's really kind of perhaps Hemingway's Valentine to the hunt, because he lived his life doing things like that and going on excursions that are kind of crazy in the sense of what's this author doing out here hunting lions. But
Yeah.
It's great. It's tragic. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's one of the longer short. This is probably the longest short piece that of the three that we're reviewing this week. Hemingway, as you shared, Ruben, he was this hunter. He married 4 times, and he had just divorced his third wife, who, in my mind, and I might be wrong, I think Hemingway was alluding to her because she was a strong character. She's a strong woman. Of all the wives, she was the only one who really left him, and she wanted to have her own career and so forth. And so there was the whole respect piece, and I think in this piece, one of the things that happened in this that really just got me, just like I was so upset, was when after there's a scene where he runs away from a lion and he's a coward, right?
Yeah.
And he goes back to sleep that night, and his wife leaves him and goes to Mr. Wilson's tent and spends basically the evening there and comes back. And she's like nonchalant. He's like, hey, where were you? And she basically lets him know, he was over there. And he just is just besides himself. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I would just kick her out of the tent. But that's just the way that's happened. That's happened before, and she's done this before. And she has no respect for him. And when he's out there the second day, when he's hunting, I think it's bull, right? He's a different man. He's ready for the fight. And then when he shoots the buffalo, he is feeling good about himself, and he just realizes, man, I'm where I'm at. And she sees it. She goes, he feels good about himself, and she can't handle that, I don't think.
Doesn't he, before he goes after the buffalo, doesn't he help Wilson take down the wounded lion?
That's right.
And that's when he starts to see things.
Oh yeah, it's a process. You're right. He starts beginning to see it, and yeah. Go ahead.
I think this is the moment, both that part and as he moves into the buffalo, where he starts to get his courage, and that once he starts to see and to feel for the first time in his life that marriage wasn't going to last, because this man believes in himself, and it's what's the word? It's inspiring in some ways, but also very tragic because of the ending. But I like this quote, because Wilson, you described this character Wilson, who, yes, he's sleeping with Francis's wife, but he's trying to excuse it. Like, why doesn't he keep her there into the tent? Why does he let her go? Because Francis doesn't have it in him.
He doesn't.
Francis doesn't have that strength of character to just make sure she stays, whatever that means, and how he communicates that. But this is a really good moment when Francis tells Wilson, I'd like to try another lion. That's a great line if you think about earlier, where he was terrified. He was shaking in his boots at the mere sound of the lion.
Oh yeah.
And I wish I had this quote, but at one point they were quoting an old an old African idea or aphorism, where they said a man feels terror 3 times: when he hears the sound of a lion, when he encounters a lion, and then when the lion sort of comes upon him. There's like 3 different moments.
Oh yeah.
That first moment when he just hears the lion, Francis was terrified, but this quote is great.
Oh yeah.
He tells Wilson, I'd like to try another lion. I'm really not afraid of them now. After all, what can they do to you? That's it, said Wilson. Worst one can do is kill you. And then he goes, what's that, Shakespeare? How does it go? Here it is. By my troth, I care not. A man can die but once. We owe God a death, and let it go which way it will. He that dies this year is quit for the next. And it's that mentality that emboldens these men and make them. Oh, I mean, if you can take on a lion, I mean, I think this is the metaphor, really,
Yeah.
that Hemingway is hinting at. If you can take on a lion in its natural habitat, you will fear nothing. Death is nothing. What, compared to a lion that I encountered in the jungle? You know,
Yeah.
so.
Isn't it funny though,
really,
Ruben, that Wilson though had really disrespect? I mean, didn't really respect him because of the lion issue, and then it was his wife, and then once he started seeing that he was like totally inspired and totally believing in himself, and wasn't fearful anymore, he had so much. Even when he died, he had so much respect for him. Didn't even, and then he had the disrespect for his wife. Like, hey, you know what? This guy was somebody. You know,
of course, because he understood. Wilson understood what hunting was and what it could do
yes,
for you, and he saw that Francis finally discovered that on his own, and then he turned on his. Wilson knew who his wife was.
right.
Unfortunately, a little bit
Too
too
late.
late. To me, this is, and I will say this: this is right up there with Old Man and the Sea as my favorite Hemingway pieces.
Yeah.
It's really great. So check it out, everybody, and tune in next time where we continue with Hemingway Week. Thank you, everybody.